Picture a vast plain in what is now modern-day Israel. The air is thick with dust and the thundering sound of thousands of horses and chariots. This is the plain of Megiddo, the setting for the first battle in history for which we have a detailed, reliable account. In the year 1457 BC, two mighty empires are about to collide in a conflict that will echo through millennia. On one side, the ambitious and brilliant Pharaoh of Egypt, Thutmose III. On the other, a powerful coalition of Canaanite kings, led by the formidable king of Kadesh. This isn't just a battle. It's the birth of recorded military history, a story of strategy, risk, and a pharaoh's unyielding will to forge an empire. Welcome to the story of the Battle of Megiddo. To understand why this battle was so crucial, we need to go back a few years. Egypt was in a period of immense power, the New Kingdom, but its dominance was threatened. The previous pharaoh, Hatshepsut, had focused more on trade and diplomacy. Upon her death, her stepson, Thutmose III, inherited the throne. He was young, ambitious, and eager to prove himself a true warrior king. Seeing this transition of power as a moment of weakness, a rebellion began to stir in the north. The king of Kadesh, sensing an opportunity, united over 330 Canaanite and Syrian princes and chieftains into a formidable alliance. They massed their armies at the strategic city of Megiddo, a fortress that controlled the major trade routes connecting Egypt to Mesopotamia. For Thutmose, this was an unacceptable challenge. Losing control of this region would mean the collapse of Egyptian influence and trade. He had to act, and he had to act decisively. In his second year as sole ruler, Thutmose III gathered his army of around 10,000 to 20,000 men, composed of elite charioteers and seasoned infantry, and marched out of Egypt to confront the rebellion head-on. The stage was set for a legendary confrontation. After a swift 10-day march up the coast, the Egyptian army reached the city of Yom. Here, Thutmose III faced a critical decision, one that would define his legacy. His scouts reported that the Canaanite coalition was waiting for him at Megiddo. To get there, he had three possible routes. Two were longer, safer paths that went around the Carmel Ridge. The third was a direct, treacherous route through a narrow mountain pass known as the Aruna Pass. It was so narrow that his army would have to march single file, horse after horse, man after man. His generals were horrified. They begged him not to take it. They argued that if the enemy was waiting at the other end of the pass, they could pick off the Egyptian army piece by piece as they emerged. It was a suicide mission. Any sensible commander would take the safer, longer route. But Thutmose III was not just any commander. He was a master of psychological warfare. He reasoned that his enemies would expect him to take the safe route. They would position their main forces to block the two wider roads, leaving the narrow pass lightly guarded, if at all. He saw an opportunity where his generals saw only danger. In a powerful speech, he declared his intentions to his men. He would lead them personally through the dangerous pass. "My Majesty will proceed upon this Aruna road," he proclaimed. "Let him who will among you go upon these roads you speak of, and let him who will among you come in the following of my Majesty." Inspired by his courage and unwavering confidence, his army agreed to follow him. This decision was a colossal gamble. If he was wrong, the Egyptian army could be annihilated. But if he was right, he would achieve the element of complete surprise, a decisive advantage in any battle. The march through the Aruna Pass had begun. The journey through the pass was as perilous as his generals had feared. It took the entire army nearly 12 hours to traverse the winding, narrow path. The vanguard, led by Thutmose himself in his gleaming electrum chariot, emerged from the pass in the early afternoon. Just as he had predicted, the exit was virtually undefended. The coalition forces were positioned to the north and south, expecting the Egyptians to appear from the easier roads. Thutmose had caught them completely off guard. He quickly established a camp and secured the exit of the pass, allowing the rest of his army to safely emerge and assemble throughout the night. By morning, the entire Egyptian army was deployed on the plain, right under the nose of the unsuspecting coalition army. The sun rose on the day of battle, revealing the full might of the Egyptian force arrayed for war. The surprise was total, and the morale of the Canaanite forces plummeted. The battle began with a thunderous charge. Thutmose III, leading from the front, ordered his chariot divisions to advance in a concave formation, a crescent shape designed to envelop the enemy's flanks. The Egyptian left wing swept south of Megiddo, while the right wing swung around to the north, threatening to encircle the coalition army completely. The sight of thousands of Egyptian chariots bearing down on them, combined with the shock of their surprise appearance, shattered the Canaanite lines. Panic erupted. The coalition forces, a loose alliance of different principalities, lacked the disciplined and unified command of the Egyptian army. They broke and fled in disarray, abandoning their own valuable chariots and weapons on the field. Their one goal was to get to the safety of the walled city of Megiddo. But in their haste, the fleeing soldiers created a new problem. The city's inhabitants, seeing the rout, had shut the gates to prevent the Egyptians from storming in. The desperate coalition soldiers were trapped outside. In a chaotic scene recorded on the temple walls at Karnak, the defenders of Megiddo lowered ropes and sheets of clothing to haul their defeated kings and soldiers up over the massive walls. This chaos, however, presented a missed opportunity for the Egyptians. Instead of pursuing the enemy and ending the war then and there, the Egyptian soldiers, seeing the riches abandoned on the battlefield, gold and silver-plated chariots, fine armor, and weapons, broke formation and began to plunder. They were overwhelmed by the sheer amount of loot. Thutmose was furious. "If only you had not given your hearts to plundering the possessions of the enemy," he lamented. "You would have captured Megiddo at this moment." The chance for a swift, decisive victory was lost to greed. Because the city was not taken, what should have been a one-day victory turned into a grueling 7-month siege. The city of Megiddo was well fortified and well-stocked, prepared for a long standoff. Thutmose ordered his army to build a moat in a wooden palisade around the entire city, completely cutting it off from the outside world. He named the enclosure, "Thutmose is the one who encloses the Asiatics." No one could get in or out. As the months dragged on, starvation began to take its toll inside the city walls. Faced with the inevitable, the defeated Canaanite princes finally surrendered. They crawled out on their bellies to beg for mercy from the Pharaoh. Thutmose, ever the pragmatist, spared their lives. He knew it was more useful to have them as vassal rulers, paying tribute to Egypt, than to execute them and create martyrs. The spoils of war were astronomical, and the Egyptians recorded every last item with meticulous detail. The official list, inscribed at the Temple of Karnak in Thebes, reads like a treasure inventory. Over 2,000 horses, 924 chariots, including the gold-plated chariot of the king of Kadesh, nearly 2,000 suits of armor, hundreds of thousands of bushels of wheat, and countless cattle and other livestock. Thutmose had not only crushed the rebellion, but had also massively enriched Egypt. He had the captured princes' sons taken back to Egypt as hostages. There, they were given an Egyptian education, ensuring that when they returned to rule their own lands, their loyalty would lie with the pharaoh. It was a brilliant strategy for long-term control. This single campaign cemented Thutmose III's reputation and kicked off a series of almost yearly military campaigns that would expand the Egyptian empire to its greatest extent, earning him the title the Napoleon of Egypt. The legacy of the Battle of Megiddo is immense. The detailed accounts inscribed by Thutmose's scribe, Janini, on the walls of the Karnak temple provide us with the first comprehensive record of a military campaign. We learn about strategy, logistics, troop movements, and even the pharaoh's own thoughts and decisions. Military historians study it to this day for its classic examples of key principles: the importance of speed, the element of surprise, the calculated risk, and psychological warfare. Thutmose's decision to take the Aruna Pass is a textbook case of choosing the unexpected route to gain a strategic advantage. This very same principle would be used thousands of years later by commanders like Napoleon. Even in World War I, the British General Edmund Allenby studied Thutmose's campaign before his own successful battle against the Ottoman Empire at, you guessed it, Megiddo. The location itself has become legendary. In the New Testament's book of Revelation, the site for the final, apocalyptic battle between good and evil is called Armageddon, a Greek transliteration of the Hebrew Har Megiddo, meaning Mount of Megiddo. So, the next time you hear the word Armageddon, remember that it's a real place, a place that witnessed the very first battle recorded in human history, a place where a young pharaoh's brilliant, risky strategy changed the course of an empire and set a precedent for military tactics for thousands of years to come. The Battle of Megiddo is more than just an ancient conflict. It's a timeless lesson in leadership, courage, and the enduring power of a bold decision. It's a story written not just in stone, but in the very fabric of military history. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey back in time. If you found this story as fascinating as I do, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the most epic moments in history. And let me know in the comments what other historical battles you'd like to see covered. See you in the next video.